So a bunch of feminists, specifically Anita Sarkeesian supporters.
Here's a major difference between you and Sarkeesian. She makes an argument against a normalization of violence against women, and you exist only to thwart her attempt at this. You make arguments against her for no other reason than to defame the work that she's done.
Trashing feminism and trashing Anita Sarkeesian.
You complain bitterly about the fact that she got all this money and there's been no appreciable change in the production value of her video. This is actually totally false. There has been an appreciable change in the value of the video, not just hair and makeup.
Decided that seeing as there wasn't a chance in hell that they would actually be able to counter the fact-based rational videos that I put up debunking Anita Sarkeesian's shit, seeing as they couldn't do that, they were going to write to my employer.
If people decide they're going to start a letter writing campaign, or they're going to people en masse are going to contact his employer
with the intention of getting me fired.
I spoke as an employer and I said, effectively, he is besmirching their reputation and that they should basically give him the choice of either continuing to do these kinds of videos or continuing to be a scientist.
If you fucking lose your job, that's on you. If I lose my job for deciding to go online and have a message, that's not the person's job or fault that tried to fucking contact my employer. That's your fucking fault.
Making a bunch of demonstrably untrue statements, like saying that I harassed Anita Sarkeesian, when in reality I just debunked her bullshit. And I'm making a bunch of utterly untrue accusations, like saying that I openly supported Hitler and that I literally commanded a hate army, and then send those letters to my employer, the local newspaper, and to the police. And how your recent celebrations about how you think you got me fired.
Maybe even alert your employer. Well, former employer.
Because he got mad at me because I made fun of him for losing his job.
In actuality, just show your moronic and reprehensible jerks of the first water. Look, I understand that you hate me.
Now, I want everybody to realize that I just straight up loathe Thunderfoot.
And that's fine. And that you're willing to do almost anything to try to fuck me over.
It was a campaign. Other people wrote letters. Not just Bewildered Ape and not just me. But I won't say who, and I took down the channel. I took down the video, so you'll never know who said that they would.
If people decide they're going to start a letter writing campaign, or they're going to people en masse are going to contact his employer.
But this is quite literally what your attempt to screw me over looked like.
You are under arrest.
Yeah, trying to get me fired by writing to my employer is quite literally like burning your own house down just to get at someone. In fact, it's worse than that. It's like burning your neighbor's house down. In fact, burning your whole neighborhood down just to try and hurt a guy in a boat offshore. It's Suicide Squad levels of stupidity.
Suicide Squad! Attack! That showed them, huh?
You see, it turns out my employer wouldn't fire me over something like this because, first of all, they appreciate that what I say online is really nothing to do with them as an academic organization. I don't purport to represent them or their views as an institution. In other words, you chose a target that is almost immune from this method of attack. You might as well try and get at the planes by throwing rocks at them. Sadly, however, throwing rocks normally hurts people. And that's the precedent that you've set, and the one that you're proud of.
If you fucking lose your job, that's on you. If I lose my job for deciding to go online and have a message, that's not the person's job or fault that tried to fucking contact my employer. That's your fucking fault. Like,
it was a campaign. Other people wrote letters. Not just Bewildered Ape and not just me. But I won't say who, and I took down the channel. I took down the video, so you'll never know who said that they would.
And say, look, this guy's doing this, this, and this. You might want to look into it, or contact perhaps people involved with Holocaust Memorial, because the Day of Remembrance is today, I believe.
The letter writing campaign. And again, I know at least 10 people who wrote the letter, so that's like 12 letters that they got. They didn't get just mine.
If people do that en masse, and then make Phil finally face consequences for his reprehensible behavior, maybe then something can be done.
You think that throwing rocks is okay, that it's a good thing. You are happy to start throwing rocks. Something that can hurt you and everyone else, simply to get at someone who can't be hurt by those rocks. The even sadder thing is, even if you had succeeded in getting me fired, the only thing that this would have ensured is that I would have a lot more time for making videos. Oh, my sweet Calamarain, if you think I tormented you in the past.
So they wanted to destroy me, did they? If you think I tormented you in the past, my little friends, wait until you see what I do with you now.
Seriously, at the moment, I'm doing this with one hand tied behind my back. I mean, let's be real. If I were to devote my whole mind to this, you would be academically bitch-slapped into the next dimension.
Mate in 143 moves.
No, Pooh! You win again!
But let's further examine this. What if you had got me fired? Well, that would mean that the research that I'm doing at the moment would end. You know, that research that requires measuring atomistic structures of biologically relevant solutions by neutron scattering in a nuclear reactor.
If you look at him and his arguments and everything he says, he has got a serious intellectual deficit.
And then refining molecular dynamics force fields from them such that they can more accurately predict things like cell-penetrating peptides, which are of relevance across biology in things like AIDS or improving drug delivery. That would stop. And honestly, for that specific line of research, there's going to be no one to pick up the pieces, because I'm a freak like that. You see, normally the life cycle of a scientist runs like this. People get a PhD, then they do a postdoc or two, then get a lectureship, and then move on to start managing other people's research. Me? I never clocked out because I enjoyed working in the lab. I enjoyed discovering the unknown with my own hands. The bottom line is that now, after all of these years, I'm actually a very experienced researcher. And frankly, there isn't anyone to take my place here. Nor is there ever likely to be till you get someone else who is crazy enough to ignore the well-trodden path of the career scientist. Well, ending that line of research, shit, that would have been one hell of a victory for social justice now, wouldn't it? There, that'll teach him to criticize feminism. That'll show him that the first world feminists aren't a bunch of fire alarm pulling crazy psychos. Indeed, someone sent me this old Twilight Zone episode, and bugger me if this isn't social justice warriors down to a T.
I'd like to speak to Mr. O'Connor, please. That's correct. I'd rather not say. It's rather personal. Hello, is this Mr. O'Connor? Mr. O'Connor, you have a man working for you in personnel, a young man named Alfred Brewster. That's right, been with you about a year and a half. Man's a communist. A subversive, a menace to our society, should be discharged immediately. Never mind how I know. I just know, that's all. I'm going to check back with you in a few days, and if it has not been discharged, I'm going to take this whole matter to a superior. Bye, Mr. O'Connor.
This person has a questionable relationship. This person does things that leads to other people being harassed. You should investigate it. I don't see why he should be able to do that in secret from his boss.
School superintendent, please. Hello, is this a school superintendent? Yeah, well, this is a concerned citizen, and this call has to do with a teacher in your employ. His name is Farwell. Well, the man is morally objectionable. He's a drinker, a carouser, and I have it on good authority that his relationships with his students are questionable at best. He should be discharged immediately. Well, never mind who this is. I happen to be giving you facts, and these facts are what is at issue.
This guy's fucking with this woman on her job and using his YouTube channel to do it, and it's harassment, and he's your employee, and it makes you look bad, and you should check into it.
Somebody think you was running some sort of a mail order business or something.
What I do, Mrs. Williams, is none of your concern. I pay my rent on time, and I mind my own business. You should learn a respect for privacy, Mrs. Williams. Now, what about your husband?
Why, Mr. Krangle, why are you trying to hurt him? What has he ever done to you? By what right, I must ask you, Mr. Krangle, by what right do you presume to pass judgment on my husband? You're not even a medical man. You don't know a thing about it. And yet you write letters to the hospital, dozens of letters, accusing my husband of being a murderer.
Then I have no problem people purporting en masse to his place of employment.
Have they discharged your husband yet? I've been expecting it momentarily.
They have not. It would take more than letter writers of a crime to make that happen.
Your husband is an evil man. I will not put up with evil in any form.
It was that whole Nazi leaning.
Communists, subversives, thieves, harlots, evil.
That's what I'll do. I'll turn all the evil people into little ones. I'll make every evil man 2 feet tall. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I write letters to employers, make phone calls late at night. There's the most efficient method right there. Calling these terrible people constantly late at night, waking them up, speaking my charges, and then hanging up. Very frustrating for them.
Yes, I'll bet.
Certainly, Peter.
At 4 o'clock, an evil man made his bed and lay in it. A pot called a kettle black, a stone thrower broke the windows of his glass house. You look for this one under F for fanatic and J for justice in the Twilight Zone.
Thankfully, your malice outstrips your ability to implement your avarice. But you can sleep well in your bed knowing that thanks to your great leading social justice warrior example, people who have families to feed, people who don't want their employer to be the arbiter of what they can and cannot say on their private accounts online.
I'm a boss. If my employees were doing this, it would be a big fucking problem for me.
Must now remain silent for fear of the consequences that you and the Perpetually Offended Brigade have bought. And make no mistake, this perpetually offended and making shit up stuff is what we're talking about here. After all, if there really was this great case against me about how I'm this evil Nazi woman hater, couldn't you just easily make that argument from the facts on the open marketplace of ideas? But instead, all you have is innuendo and this factually incorrect hearsay.
And I've had other people come and tell me all kinds of shit about this man having problems with women. I've been sent videos about how he completely misrepresented what happened when he left Free Thought blogs. And I don't want to get into all that. He's just a big character is what it is. He's just a big character.
It has come to my attention recently that when the Venom Fang X debacle was going on, apparently Venom Fang X lost his job at the video store because it was brought to their attention that he was engaging in distributing these CDs of Ken Hoven's, I don't remember exactly what the series was, to customers who were coming into the store, and he lost his job for this, and apparently later it was revealed in some of the chats that Dr. Phil Mason was complicit in this and may have even caused it. I find this fascinating that this event occurred.
Yeah, that's because it didn't occur, which is why you're talking about chat logs rather than producing them. You know, just like those accusations you were making about me being a really shitty chemist. I mean, don't be fooled by the publications in world-leading journals.
Hello, Phil. You'll forgive me if I don't stand on ceremony and address you by the term doctor, because in my eyes, not only have you not earned that title, you have not earned the title of human being. You don't even really understand chemistry all that well. That's come from people who are in chemistry. I've had people in your own field say, yeah, Thunderfoot's a pretty shitty chemist too, actually. He gets things wrong in his video.
Now, I'm a shitty chemist because someone told Hannibal that I was a shitty chemist. Wow. I mean, with the quality of evidence-based arguments like that, who could possibly doubt him?
Now, Johnny Depp has done some videos where he says, well, look, Thunderfoot said all this shit, but he never once addressed Laughing Witch's points. He never once said, okay, whatever, I'm not a racist, I'm not, a sexist.
I'm not racist.
I'm not sexist.
I'm not racist.
I'm not sexist. I promise you I'm not sexist.
I'm not at all racist.
Oh, and the facile smear tactics, let's see. Yeah, on top of that, I've never said that I wasn't responsible for the Kennedy assassination either. And even if I do deny these things, you're going to shift it to making the baseless accusation of whatever, that Thunderfoot seems very defensive in denying his links to the Kennedy assassination. Look, I've never harassed Anita Sarkeesian. I've debunked her bullshit, which is why nowhere can any of you munchkins point to a video that would count as harassment. Otherwise, you would have probably done that by now.
Now, Johnny Depp has done some videos where he says, well, look, Thunderfoot said all this shit, but he never once addressed Laughing Witch's points.
Well, yeah, the reason I didn't address any of your points is because you didn't make any points. You just made a bunch of utterly unsustained accusations about me being a Nazi and then sent them to my employer. Why would you feel the need that the only way that you can win is by targeting someone's livelihood? Look, let me give you an example. I can easily eviscerate the crap that Anita Sarkeesian says because it's not hard. Because if you find someone hot, that's not because they're sexy, but that's because you proved yourself to be a sexist.
Or more succinctly and more accurately, sexism sells. And why does sexism sell? Well, because it's not challenging dominant paradigms. It's simply reinforcing ideas about male privilege and entitlement to women's sexuality that are already entrenched in the cultural zeitgeist.
No! This is why I wouldn't dream of trying to get someone like Venom Fang X fired from a job in a video store, because my intention is not to destroy people like this, but to shine a bloody light on them so everyone can see how crazy they are, or more specifically, their ideas. And meanwhile, where is the evidence that I'm this Nazi who hates women and so forth? Where is this evidence of this army of skinheads? I mean, shit, do you guys even know what Nazi means? It's German for National Socialist. My dear social justice warriors, I mean, how the hell do you figure that debunking some batshit crazy feminist shit makes you a national socialist? Now, what these people done maybe isn't illegal. Well, actually, it's getting on for defamation.
You can say whatever you want to say. There was nothing in that letter that he read that was slanderous. But libel is accusing someone, say like Dean Esme did with me, of being a violent pedophile and then going around making false accusations to destroy their character versus saying
that he has openly harassed Anita Sarkeesian, that he is literally running a hate army of 329,000 followers, and those are mostly neo-Nazis who are completely committed to white male supremacy. That he hates Muslims, Nazi ideology. That he hates women, Nazi ideology. That his followers are mostly white male Nazi apologists, revisionists, sympathizers who he commands like an army. That he openly supports Hitler and the Nazi Holocaust as a good thing for humanity.
Libel is when you accuse someone of doing something that they didn't do. And they're all saying, you're going to get sued for libel. You pointed out that he said something that he actually said. I have people who are coming saying it's libel. It's libel for me to say to his employer, look at his YouTube channel and look at the content of his channel and decide if that represents your organization. That's not libel.
Which would be great. Apart from that's not what you did or said. You said stuff like that he openly supports Hitler and the Nazi Holocaust as a good thing for humanity.
Libel is when you accuse someone of doing something that they didn't do.
Like saying that I was fired.
He got mad at me because I made fun of him for losing his job.
When in reality, not only is it demonstrably wrong, but you admit elsewhere that you know that you're just making it up out of thin air. Just like all the other stuff for which you provided no evidence whatsoever. You know, about things like openly supporting Hitler. And when you're caught red-handed just making shit up out of thin air, what's your defense?
He read an email, I guess, that employer received, but that wasn't mine.
Until someone points out that you put a video up of the letter you sent, and yes, that's exactly the letter you sent. Then you shift the goalposts too.
Whether you agree with what I've done or not, and I don't know if it's my letter or not, and I don't care. It's a dumb question. It's a question. It doesn't make any difference. What is the point? If I say, yeah, I sent a letter, and I don't know if it's mine or not. If you can prove it's mine, what? Who cares? I don't care. That's dumb. Gotcha. Get this. Let's get real.
That's your defense for getting caught making stuff up out of thin air about something as binary as "that's not the letter I sent," when in actuality, yes, that's exactly the letter you sent. And shrugging it off as, well, so what? Who cares that I've been shown to be a liar without shame? But it shows the level of spiteful stupidity that I've really only seen with these talentless social justice warriors that think that because they're more offended than you, that makes them a better person than you.
We don't eat food anymore.
It's very offensive.
Why are you both wearing black?
It's not black. It's African American.
Okay, so what are your names then?
We don't have names anymore.
They cause discrimination.
Yeah, so we all became number one.
It's wonderful.
And that therefore, anything they do is justified.
She's not used to men disagreeing with her.
Why? What is she going to do, arrest me?
Well, actually, yes, there's a 20-year jail sentence for disagreeing with a woman, and 30 years if she's a privileged white woman with a blog.
I mean, it's like protesting the funerals of dead soldiers. Sure, it might not be against the law, but damn, don't you munchkins ever sit down and think about what you're doing? Don't any of you ever sit down in front of a mirror and ask, really, if what I'm doing here is right, is there anything left to call wrong? And if such an appeal doesn't move you, let me give you another truth, that anonymity online has a very limited shelf life. Maybe that's something you should think about before trying to pass off writing to someone's employer, telling them that they're a Nazi who's racist against Muslims, or writing to the local police and calling it performance art. Shit, these are like irregular verbs for social justice warriors, aren't they? You know, that I create performance art by reporting you to the police. You SWAT houses, and that's illegal.
And that they take it very seriously, and if you are someone who swats, they charge you with a federal crime. And the last time he checked, there was a young man who was 15 who got 15 years.
And if there's any doubt, in the video where she shows her letter writing campaign, she shows that she sends this letter to the local police force where I live.
And it opens, and that's where I put my letter. Now, here's my letter. See my name? I put my name there. I didn't put Bewildered Ape. I didn't put Laughing Witch. That's what I said.
If not acting like a jerk for virtuous reasons isn't enough for you, do it for the practical one of how many do you think will cry when you're subjected to the same performance art that you subjected others to. And not only that, you're giving one hell of a representation of the Anita Sarkeesian fan club.
Trashing feminism and trashing Anita Sarkeesian.
Now bear in mind that she's constantly complained about how this conspiracy of men out to get there.
I found myself the target of a massive online hate campaign. They also have a home base where they coordinate their raids and work together and communicate. And this usually takes place on largely unmoderated, largely anonymous message boards and forums.
To the thousands of men who turned their misogyny into a game in which gendered slurs, death, and rape threats are weapons used to try and take down the big bad villain, which in this case is me.
Which she's never shown any evidence for. She just says that all these people criticizing her are actually a coordinated hate mob. While you, the Anita Sarkeesian fan club, openly plot and conspire to fuck people over.
The letter writing campaign. And again, I know at least 10 people who wrote the letter, so that's like 12 letters that they got. They didn't get just mine.
You also caused a great deal of distress for somebody whom I'm very fond of. And I can't stress enough that in that regard, I will fuck you over for that one of these days if it's the last thing I ever do. I just want to make that clear, Phil.
I sincerely hope, for the sake of this forum, that you have the vision to apologize for what you've done. Not to me, because I don't give a shit, but to the people out there who this really could affect, and how you don't think that a letter writing campaign because someone disagreed with you online is the way forward. And if you're not going to do it out of a sense of decency, then do it out of a sense of self-preservation. Because let's be real, internet justice tends to be swift and ironic. So this is the way that it breaks down. You are correct. Letter writing is within your freedom of speech, even if that involves targeting someone's income.
You want to blast me for writing a letter which was a legitimate protest.
But that door swings both ways, especially when a quick Google search of the email you sent gives this. And believe me, I'm by no means the first person to do this. But you may sit there and say, yeah, but my husband owns the company. You can't get me fired.
And somebody else sent me a comment. They're going to contact my boss, which is apparently my husband. But part of the reason I wanted to do this video is these people can't do anything to me.
Well, I'm not too sure about that. Because people can say what they want about your company online. In fact, it's really not like what you did at all, in that all they have to do is tell the truth about your actions rather than all this bullshit about calling people Nazis and so forth. Because I've got to admit, if I was looking at getting my bath done or something, and I watched a video like this about how Westboro Baptist Church reprehensibly their vice president was acting,
and for everybody to be like, oh, you would have to do a job. You know, when you finally grow up and you actually get a job, you will have a responsibility to your employer not to ruin their brand.
Goddamn straight, I would take my business elsewhere. Especially for a woman who so boldly declares that she can say whatever she wants online while simultaneously stripping that freedom from her employees.
But it's just pretty funny. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I'm a boss. If my employees were doing this, it would be a big fucking problem for me. And if I in fact had an employee who was engaging in this kind of online harassment, he would not be my employee any longer. I would get rid of him. I would think that he was mental.
So you tell me, given that you are utterly unrepentant about targeting someone's income.
Anyway, like I said, I'm not sorry. I did what I thought was right.
Why should they not reciprocate that action? Why should they not target your income in a reciprocative form of natural justice? If I were you, I would give some thought to writing a groveling apology. Not to me, because despite your most spiteful efforts, the bottom line is, yeah, it's not nice having a bunch of people write to your employer calling you a Nazi who runs a hate army and trying to get you fired and have your livelihood destroyed. But the bottom line is, practically, you had no effect on me. But you need to apologize to the people out there whose lives you could have ruined, and that you're deeply sorry for using such malicious tactics simply because you didn't like what they said online. Else they may quite reasonably figure that she who lives by the letter writing campaign dies by the letter writing campaign. Honestly, I would do that apology quickly and sincerely, because the internet is not as forgiving as I am.
At 4 o'clock, an evil man made his bed and lay in it. A pot called a kettle black, a stone thrower broke the windows of his glass house. You look for this one under F for fanatic and J for justice in the Twilight Zone.